All right, from the top.
Yep.
All right. I forgot my lines already.
I didn't. I never knew mine. I'm looking at the document. I'm dead on this fucking document.
The thing is, it's cold because I gotta pull the motherfucker up from my phone because I had the full screen and shit to record my backup.
It's amazing. I'm a literal actor. Like, learning lines is my fucking job. I'm like, nigga, I don't know.
All right, let's get it. Yeah, welcome to Mindful Blerd, where we dive deep into anime, movies, and the political world.
With this, we're going to bring you some mindfulness, a little mental health, touch of spiritual wisdom, and all while we are celebrating our blurred identity. Black nerd, for those of you who don't know what that is.
Yeah, for real. I'm your political radical, Goofywise.
And I'm your spiritually grounded, hopefully, motivational guy, motivational speaker. And together we are Mindful Blerd. And here we're going to just, bring unique perspectives together to create a space for, thoughtful, funny, and real conversations. Hopefully real. We'll do our best.
We'll try our best. All I know is we be some vulnerable niggas, and we gonna be vulnerable nigga. All right.
Speak for yourself. I'm so closed off today. Fuck
that's
that.
cap. That's cap. Don't let that man is in his meditation room ready to go, bro. if you don't go ahead, ding that dong, get ready to go. All right. So today we're gonna be talking about House of Dragons, the entire season. So just spoiler warning off rip. We'll be talking about the whole season, what our thoughts are, and our impressions as the season has just come to the end. Now. But before we get into that, we're going to the quote of the week. Every week, we'll bring you a brand new quote. It makes you think a little mindfulness, you know what I'm saying? And this week, Fauxtivational is bringing us a quote. So what do you got for us?
All right, man. So my quote, my quote this week was from a movie. I went to a film festival. A friend of mine was at a film festival. And so he's watching all these.
He's from LA, y'all. He be going to quirky, cool shit like that.
Man, I just be going to film festivals, ain't that shit. No, honestly, most film festivals are ass. Most of the time you go to a film festival and like it's like your friends are like, let me go see my film, and you're like, oh yeah, that was cool, but you gotta kind of. This was some of the best movies I've ever seen.
You gotta direct that.
You know what I'm saying? Like
edit that a little better.
You know, like you just gotta support. But this was every single one I saw was really good. There were all these short films, and they were all kind of they were dark comedies, so there was a lot of death. And one of them, the quote was that really affected me this week was. Your grief is not unique to you. And there was like more to it, and I'm probably like misquoting it, but just that's the kind of gist of it. Like, your grief is not unique to you. And the context for that was this woman who had just lost her best friend. And I wish I remember the name of the movie, because I probably should look it up, because this is free promo for them. But a woman had just lost her best friend, and best friend was like, yo, like, I'm gonna if I die ever, right before it happens in the very beginning, she's like, if I ever die, like, I'm gonna come back as a porta potty. And so like, she's in the middle of her grieving process, and this fucking porta potty shows up next door with these construction workers. And so she's like trying to do this, like she's trying to like,
do a seance.
Like, she's grieving with the thing. Like, it's a whole thing. There's a dance number. There's this crazy shit. And like right at the end, like one of the construction workers comes over to her, and she's like, just kind of at a low point, but a high point. But the guy's like, your grief isn't unique to you. The grief, it's not your own. And essentially for me, there was a sort of, when he said it seemed a little insensitive, because she just had this whole dance number, and she got peed on by a dog. So I was like, oh man, that's kind of fucked up. That was cold. It's like, yeah, do it like that. You know what I mean? But then I was like, but then I really felt that it really pointed to the sort of universality of like suffering. And I think that's something that can be really easy to forget, especially in this day and age. I know for me, especially, on a daily basis, I'm always kind of overwhelmed by my sort of selfishness and thinking that like, I'm the only one that hurts. Like, I'm the only one that's suffering like this. Nobody's suffering's got anything on me. And so for me, it was a very sort of humanizing moment. And I think anything that humanizes or offers that sort of humanizing perspective, for me, grounds me immediately. And I was already kind of like, you gotta whatever. I was kind of having a week, whatever. And I just remember when I heard that, I was like, yo, like, that's real.
That's real as fuck. No, that's real as fuck. I actually really love that quote. So when the guy, just so I understand the context of the movie a little bit better, when the guy was saying it to her, like your grief is not unique to you, or was it like kind of like in a mean way?
No, it was cool. It was kind because like he was
Yeah.
he had seen her like fucking around with the thing, right? Like she had been like back and forth and doing weird stuff, and like at one point she's like spilling her guts to this porta potty, and then he walks out that bitch. Yeah. It's really funny. And so
he was inside taking a shit while she was talking to him?
At one point, yeah.
Shit. Okay.
So he knows, like, he's got an idea, and so at some point he's like throwing her a bone, like, hey man, it wasn't mean, like it was just like it was very much like he was helping her along. He said some more really dope shit. I wish I would have like got the whole thing. But just when he said that, it was such a like, I think a lot of the time, you know I can become incredibly self-indulgent in my suffering. Like nobody's got it as bad as me. And I can also forget that like everybody going through shit. Yeah. Everybody's got shit. And so that really kind of hit home for me and resonated. Like I've been, you know what I mean?
Yo, that's fucking great. And I'm really glad that you shared that, because the reason why I had to ask for that clarification, just so I make sure that I was understanding it correctly, because in that moment, I think he offered her a life raft in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to say that, like, hey, even though this is really fucking weird, you know what I mean? You're fucking worshiping a porta potty. It's weird. You know what I'm saying? This is kind of out of pocket. But even in that moment, you're not alone in your grief. Your grief is not unique to you. And and that to me is just like, oh, as someone who is like, who suffered from depression pretty much most of my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's something I crave. You know what I mean? It sounds horrible sometimes when I think about it. It's just like, oh, I want niggas to be sad like me. You know what I'm saying? But it's not even that. It's just like, I just want to know that I'm not strange. You know what I mean?
You're not alone.
Yeah, I'm not alone. You know? Yeah. I'm not alone. And it's like something about that to me. Like when you said it that way, I was like, at first I was like, this is hilarious. But then as you started to talk more, I was like, man, that was actually some really moving thing to say, considering the circumstance that she was in. You know what I mean? And like how out on a limb she was, and he just threw her life. I was like, hey, your grief, you're not unique in your grief. You know what I'm saying? And I just wish that we would say that shit to each other more. You know what I mean? Because oftentimes I feel myself coping, looking for, ways to fill the hole inside of me. And I think that oftentimes it's just some kind of connection to another person or human being. You know what I mean? And you can really save somebody like that. So yeah, fucking fire quote, dude. Thank you so much for that. Damn.
Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, I love the turnaround on that, because it's definitely a lifeline. It definitely was too. It definitely came off like a lifeline. Like, hey, we see you. Yeah, I get it. Like, I get it, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you know what? Like, I hate to beat a dead horse. That's crazy as a vegan to say that, but but I'm like, I just want to say that, like, I'm just so proud of us in this moment. I'm so grateful to have you on this podcast and be a co-host with you. You know what I mean? Because I just, like, I know you always gonna bring some shit, and I'm gonna give it right back. You know what I mean? And like, and I say that in the most like honest and sincere and genuine way. Not even like just for the sake of making content, but just honestly, we're connecting as two human beings right now, and that means a lot to me, man, for real.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I'm gonna resist the urge to deflect with humor. That means a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
We call that. Me and my homies call that and shit syndrome.
Like, yeah.
Like, I love you and shit. You know what I'm saying? To make it sound more cool and shit.
Yo, wait.
Yeah, we call that the and shit syndrome, nigga.
Yeah,
niggas,
yeah.
Hey, we two grown men. We being vulnerable. That's enough. Yeah. We ain't gotta throw no and shits on there. We ain't gotta throw no jokes on there either, motherfucker.
It's right there. It's done. See, I've already ruined it. I appreciate that. I feel the same way. Thank you. Very sincere. Yeah. Very sincerity is scary. Okay.
Yeah, it is for sure.
All right, so I guess we're gonna get into it. The House of the Dragon season 2. We gotta talk about it.
Yeah,
we gotta talk about it
for sure. House of Dragon season 2. Man, this was a long-awaited season. I still remember the feeling I had at the end of season 1 when they were turned around and she just found out about Lucerys' death, and she turned around and I was like, "Ooh, nigga, they finna kill everybody!" You know what I'm saying? I was hyped. They done took your throne, and now they done took your son, motherfucking King Slytherin over there, okay, aka Pistol Grip Chin over here, got your son killed because he thinking Vagar a motherfucking play toy. God damn it.
They got a nigga Pistol Grip Chin. Okay.
That's fucked up. I gotta stop doing that because that's low-key body shaming. And I thought he wore a prosthetic, but that's really his chin for real. You know?
That's him. That's him.
That's crazy.
This is swaggy though. It's swaggy.
Yeah, respect to that man. He's a great actor. I love what you do. But getting into the season 2, I was expecting a lot more violence than we initially got. I think from a general aspect, I think the season kind of played out more slow. And it was, I think it was to its benefit. I think people got really upset at the idea that like they were sold almost a lie. The season was going to be straight war the whole time. And I'll admit, I kind of felt the same way, but I think instead of what we got at this spectacle, we got so much character development from so many different characters. Like, just thinking in my mind, like, one of my favorite scenes from it is like the House Valerian and the Bastards of Valerian, and I forgot his name. I call him broke nigga. The bald Valerian, bro, who got beef with his dad. I forgot his name. I think it's Adam.
I will never know a name on this. I'm just gonna just be clear.
I forget, but like even like the little relationships like that, and like the character development and the building of this war is just like, it's so well thought out. We're getting so many different people being developed, and it's such an interesting story. So I guess from what I perceive from the story, just in its base bones, it's like Rhaenyra is basically trying to get her throne back. You know what I'm saying? It's basically this whole thing is happening is because of misogyny. You know what I mean? And started with Plato Hightower. You know what I'm saying? Basically plotting on Rhaenyra. And like it just sucks to see that this play out throughout the season, where Rhaenyra is constantly dealing with misogyny from all angles, and in some ways from her counsel, in some ways from her realizing from the fact that she was raised differently just because she's a woman, and maybe she doesn't feel like she's 100% fit to lead. You know what I mean? Because she wasn't taught how to fight in war, and she didn't grow up around this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Nonetheless, I did enjoy the season quite a lot, man. I thought it was phenomenal. The Battle of Rook's Rest was crazy. But yeah, all in all, Rhaenyra fucking got her lick back. You know what I'm saying? And now they stocked and ready for round 2. We got crazy Uncle Day been in Harrenhal all season, going through his misogyny nightmares and shit, midlife crisis. Yeah, that's kind of my general thoughts about the whole season. Patriarchy sucks. Yeah.
Patriarchy sucks.
Yeah.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
I had a 180 this season. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not enjoy season 1. I was really frustrated. I had a really tough time in season 1. Wow. I don't know why. I think it's because I was watching House of the Dragon at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was really enjoying not House of the Dragon. I was watching the Lord of the Rings joint at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I was watching. I know people feel the type of way that we could talk about that later, people. Yeah. I really, this season, I was like, at the beginning of the season, I was really frustrated just because it's such a dark show. Like it really is it's a what's the word? Like it's a tragedy. Like we're really watching a tragedy unfold.
It's a very it's in some ways a love tragedy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's that shit. So I was like, I'm like, why? Like, honestly, at the beginning, I even made a video about it. I was like, man, like, why am I watching this shit? Like, I'm so sad all the time. Everything is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Why? And so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna lock in. And so it's really interesting that you said that there was a sort of expectation of like war. Yeah. Expectation of like getting it going, because I really, while also having that expectation, I think that was kind of the theme of the whole fucking season was like this fucking expectation. Yeah. And so what ended up, you know what I mean? Like everybody just like, all right, well, this is what we do.
We just fucking everybody, the motherfuckers is on the same page as the fans. Like, are we at war, nigga? I guess.
We at war. Like, this is what happens. And so it was really, I got sucked in by like everybody's desire to second guess that instinct. Like that's really what, because if not, it's just fucking
second guessed what? Just so we're clear.
The instinct is just like kill people. Like the instinct to just go to war with dragons.
Full out war. Yeah. The hesitation almost. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so for me, my general takeaway of the season was like, I was genuinely appreciative of how like at the beginning of the season, we really see it like after they had that first meeting in the the kid's dead. Yeah. We had that first meeting when they're in the hall. Like I'm really like, oh well, I guess it's just gonna be like heads rolling and dragons the whole time.
Yeah.
But through all kinds of stuff, there were all these kind of generalized. There was all these moments of like, wait, maybe not. Wait, maybe not.
Yeah.
And so that in addition to the fact that I think my other general takeaway was I feel like this was a season of the recognition of the fact that like you're not gonna get the thing that you think you want isn't the thing that you want. Like the thing, like the crown, the dragon, like the thing that you think is gonna be the thing is not what you think. And so it felt like a kind of coming of age of adolescence or adulthood. Like when you go from like the world was very kind of small for them as children. Oh, this is what we do. And then by the end of it, it's like, oh no, we had to grow up. Damon had to grow up.
Everybody had to grow up. Yeah.
Everybody had to get past their sort of childish dragons, pun intended. And so that was the thing that grabbed me. And then I thought the performances just from an acting perspective were
phenomenal.
Like, fantastic.
Across the board. Like it was just phenomenal. And I think you bring up a really good point when you think say like the hesitation of like people just not wanting to go to war. I think there's a scene where Rhaenyra is talking to her council and all the men on the council are like, dude, go to war right now. Like literally go to war. And Rhaenyra is kind of hesitant. She's kind of like her father in that way. But also, we have Rhaenys in her ear telling her, like, hey, bro, if you can get out of this war, get out of it. Because it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be good. And we see, like, a moment, like you said, we see a moment, like, every once in a while, every time a new threshold is crossed, like, okay, we got to stop and chill out. Like, Rhaenyra was really not about that life, for real. And I think that just shows how much of a good leader that she could be. Given the opportunity, because she really does not want to go full out wage out war. You know what I mean? I think that was fire. Yeah.
So you just reminded me of like my general like I think a really interesting point about this season is you get to see a lot of people realize. You get to see that the people who are like running for the thing, like Damon, his whole life, I want the throne. I want the throne. I want the throne. I want the throne. Like, you get to see the who's the guy with the hand of the king? That motherfucker who was like, yeah. You see him. I want power. I want to be this. I want to be with her. I want this. I think they know what they want. You see the who was the dude? Like, who was the guy? I think the number one, like the person who solidified this thing for me was the guy when they were looking for them dragons. And they were looking for the dragon riders.
I don't know who that is. Looking for them dragons. It could be any episode.
Where they were looking for the dragon riders, and before they got to the bastards, the first guy they pulled in, the knight. That dude.
Dragon food.
And they were like, you know, do you want to be a dragon rider? And he's kind of timid in the thing, and like, do you want to be a dragon rider? And then he like steps up and is like, I'm ready. Like, like. There's a sense of the people who are best suited to lead, to do the thing, are the ones who don't fucking want it. Like the ones who are like, this is just what I have to do. Like at no point, like, what did Damon's brother tell him in the dream? Is like, you still want it?
Yeah.
Do you still want it? Like that shit is real, bro.
No, that's real shit. Like after you see what this shit cost me, I'm looking like a dried up raisin right now, nigga. You see what this shit has done to me, nigga? I thought I want this shit too, nigga. I don't want this shit. Please take it, nigga.
It's the worst. Nobody wants this shit. It's like heavy as the head. It feels. Oh man, I almost got it. We almost got into hold up. Almost got into villain saga with that shit. But like for real, like you don't want that shit. You don't want like being the king is like such a burden. And I think the ones who end up being like the better leaders are the ones who are like, you know what, like maybe I don't know. Like the ones who rush to it, Aegon and they all them cats, they rush to it because they think it's gonna do something for them, but it ends up taking more from them than they think they're gonna get. And it's fucking
it's like almost like the ambition of wanting the crown. It just reveals like how inferior you were to it beginning. In the beginning, like I think Jon Snow was a game. As much as I hate the end of Game of Thrones, I bring up the Starks because like the Starks were a good symbol of like they don't want the throne. Ned Stark didn't want the throne. He could have took the throne. Jon Snow didn't even want the throne. He was like a reluctant to have these things, and oftentimes these people make better leaders because they're not corrupted by the wanting of it. You know what I mean? And But I did want to talk about a little bit what you brought up also as well. About like almost like be careful what you wish for in a way, but also like just realizing how trauma plays out over time, like generationally. I think about like how this whole thing was started by Plotimus Prime, Otto Hightower. I call him Plotto or Plotimus Prime, just because like he really wanted his kids to be on the throne, and like so badly that he put his he looked at his whole family like chess pieces. Like when fucking
Mm-hmm.
Aegon's child died, he's like thinking, not sad, not grieving. He's like, what can we do from this? How can we use this to our advantage? Which is to let you know how much he looked at these people, his family, his grandson, like fucking chess pieces, right?
Yeah, objects, man.
Yeah, and he moved his daughter into, to the point, like this whole thing started because he moved his daughter into basically becoming the queen or whatever, Alicent, you know what I mean? And she's her own fucking Karen of her own, but the whole time she's being pushed into this thing, and like they have a battle, Rhaenyra and Alicent, because of her dad moving that wheel, you know what I mean? And then like not only does it destroy Alicent lights, but it goes down into Aegon as well. And Aegon is like, okay, I remember that scene. One of the most beautiful scenes of the season is when Aegon confronts Plato, and you can just see how much of a bad motherfucker Aegon is. And I don't mean like bad motherfucker like he's a great villain, but he's just a badass kid, nigga.
Yeah.
Last season I was like Queen Karen and them badass kids. This motherfucker,
Seriously.
he got so happy at the idea of just, oh, you gonna dare me to do something bad? I'm a do it, nigga. You know what I mean? And you can see the raw like defeat on Otto's face. You know what I mean? And it's like he wanted this for so long. You know what I mean? He wanted this for so long to have his seed, his line on the throne. And like look what his kid's a fucking dumbass. He's an R word. You know what I mean? He literally like he's a bad person. You know what I mean? It just shows you like how much he affected the entire thing, and all that he wanted is now ruined because ultimately his pursuit to chase it. You know what I mean? And treat people like objects, but that's all he knew. You know what I mean? Just like we all perpetuate our own way of trauma passed down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point because it's like it's difficult to humanize these people.
Yeah, it is difficult to humanize these people. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's really why I had such a tough time at the beginning of it because I'm just like, nigga, don't like jump on the dragon and kill somebody. Like, it's just it's not hard.
Yeah.
But I think you do get a sense this whole season of just how trapped so many of them feel.
Yeah.
Like by this shit.
Yeah.
And how I feel like every time like you see that sort of trap happen, there's always some kind of moment of like, maybe we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Like maybe we can just choose something else, guys. Like that was wild to me, man. And the idea of the traumas like being passed down that was the biggest thing for me is like you can really draw the line. As much as I hate that fucking ending of Game of Thrones, you can really draw a line between the generational trauma of these people all the way to Daenerys.
Yeah.
And it's just like this was just this kind of crazy perpetuated thing. And it's almost like power grabbing and all this stuff. It's also like a lot of them just feel like it's for their survival. Like as rich and as wealthy and as whatever they are, it's like, I'm just trying to take care of my family. I'm just trying to take care of my kids. And like, and it's really rough.
Yeah.
It was just really rough to watch, but I really did resonate with this sort of theme. Cause I really do think a lot of people like are frustrated by the sort of lack of stuff that happens this season.
Yeah.
But like, I feel it's not doing it despite everything being like, go.
Yeah.
Go. It's time. It represents like taking a pause. We're going to back it up. Maybe we're going to like, and there were all these sort of heavy starts. Like, maybe. And I feel like that's just a real fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like that just happens in life. And I appreciated it. I appreciated the temperance of it and the sort of nature of like everybody realizing it felt like this is the season where everybody, like by the end of the season, everybody realized the gravity of what was going to happen. Like before it was just like, oh, we get dragons. And like, everybody's like, you know what it felt like?
Yeah.
Pisses me the fuck off when people say this. It felt like when I talk to people about like war or some shit, like in America, you talk to war and somebody says like, oh, war is hell.
Yeah.
And they say it like this, like cliche, like, war is hell.
Yeah.
Like, no, nigga, war is hell.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? Like,
it's really bad.
Like,
it's like more bad than we could possibly conceive. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Like, and the way that like I think Americans are just desensitized to atrocity, I think plays out excellently like in this season because you know what I'm saying, because like all season.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Yeah,
because we don't give like.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say because like people want so bad the violence in the show, but they're not even like able to. So much to the point they're almost not unable to humanize or relate to the characters in the show as actual people, and they're just wanting to see like this spectacle happen, not realizing like what all this costs. I think, as much as I hate this scene in the last season, we saw Rhaenys, bust out of the dragon pits in that episode, kill a bunch of common people, mind you, but they don't matter in this equation, I guess, right? But she looks at the royal family has a chance to kill all of Team Green in one fatal blow, and nobody really understood or could relate. I myself, I was angry. I was like, why didn't she just kill them? What the fuck is your problem, bro? But I think what we are underestimating is the cost of, well, in that instance, kinslaying, which is like a huge big deal in the Game of Thrones. Like if you're a kinslayer, you're the worst kind of person, bro. Like you're cursed. You know what I mean? It's like a huge thing. But also like that is a huge fucking deal to kill people like that, to wipe out an entire line like that. And I think people don't really understand because they just want the fucking violence, they want the spectacle. But it's like this is a huge ask for human beings to partake in this level of extreme violence. You know what I mean?
Extreme violence.
You know what I mean? And it's obviously there's some people in the world who are in this Game of Thrones universe who are more akin to that, or who are more okay with that. But it's like there's also people who are not. You know what I mean? And the people who are not are the more human kind of people in a way. You know what I'm saying? Because they are trying to stop slaughtering. You know what I mean? Of senseless amount of death. You know what I mean? And I think that's why some people kind of struggle with this season a lot. You know what I mean?
You literally articulated why I got so frustrated with Game of Thrones. Why I get frustrated with a lot of event TV, because even like OG Game of Thrones, like I think at some point it becomes more about like the spectacle and like,
my God,
how somebody's gonna die, and like, oh, I don't know, like anybody can die any week, and it's like, but like anybody can die any week, like that, like anybody can die any week, like that's a real thing that we have to consider, and I feel like this season at least gave that a bit of consideration to the fact. And even like with like you said, the small folk, this is the most we've seen of any of. And so seeing how that affects people, and then our boy's speech at the end where he's like, we're just fucking fodder for these dragons, really gave that whole thing a perspective at just how like careless people are with the lives of human beings. And so I really appreciated them like somewhat beginning to take that seriously this season.
I think it's important. Yeah. I think it doesn't make for like I don't want to say a good show, but I think as much as I hate to differentiate audiences, like I think the casual viewer will probably be upset about this, but I think what they did is they traded the casual experience enjoyment for a better quality show. You know what I mean? And a more real and a more humanistic show in a way of like really just showing you the degradation of people's humanity and what it looks like, what it costs. A slow burn too. It's not happening right away. It's a slow burn. And I really appreciate the patience they had this season. I think the payoff is going to be even better, in the end, ultimately, because we got to see so much of their reaction and development and hesitation to this. You know what I mean? Like at the end where Rhaenyra finally like, all right, it's time. You know what I mean? I can't keep doing this. I gotta actually go to war. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that is something that happens over time. Like she started the season grieving her son, and she didn't want to go to war right away. She had to go heal and get her head right. But I think that ultimately she decided at the end of the season, like war, it has to happen now. It's just there's no question. And when she snuck into motherfucking King's Landing and shit, you know what I mean? I was so mad at her for that dumb shit. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, as someone who was Team Black, I'm Team Black, all right? If you ain't Team Black, you ain't black. If you feel me, you feel me? You ain't black. You feel me? So that's how I felt about the whole situation when I'm watching the situation where she's going into the Green Capital, King's Landing, and she's fucking just going to meet up with Alicent, dumbass. And we're gonna see Alicent perpetuate this whole war, right? Because of a now mind you, a dying man's mumbling words while he's also high. He happened to mention Aegon's name like there ain't 20 Aegons in this fucking whole story to begin with. You know what I'm saying? And at that point she's like, oh, it's too late. It's too late. You know what I mean? And seeing them have their, their dance in a way throughout this season, I thought was extremely profound. You know what I mean? Because again, they are being pulled. They're basically fighting because of some shit that was out of their control, or basically because of Otto, right? And him pushing them into this dynamic. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I thought it was really cool watching that happen in real time. You know?
What did you think of Damon's joint this year?
Damon?
His
midlife misogyny crisis.
Yeah.
I thought I was a little tired of his scenes. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I think ultimately that he had to go through that. Like Damon had to go through all those horrible misogynistic midlife crisis where he addressed his pain to Rhaenyra, his relationship with Rhaenyra, relationship with his brother. Because I think that he had to come to Rhaenyra's side ultimately, but if they would have just switched him automatically to Rhaenyra's side, all willy-nilly, it would have felt cheap. It would have felt stupid.
Felt weird.
You know what I mean? And so, like, as much as I dreaded some of those episodes, and I'm like, oh God, Damon, hurry up. You know what I'm saying? I think in looking back, I'm like, that actually was probably the smartest move they could have did, because watching that payoff scene where fucking Damon fucking is like, he's talking to Rhaenyra and giving her like the props in front of the Rimmerman, and he telling the whole group chat like, "Hey, we went Rhaenyra," you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that shit was priceless. You know what I mean?
I think you definitely hit it, because I was also a little about it, and then I don't know, about halfway through watching them, I was like, hold up, he needs this much time.
Yeah,
like Damon needs, like, if you watch the whole first season, there are all these moments of us feeling like, man, he got his shit together. Like, he's like, I'm the guy. Like, oh man, that was cool. We put the crown on the head. Like, we cool.
Yeah.
But what you really get the context for this season is, like, last season, he was really there was so much just avoidant behavior.
Yeah.
It was still the same kind of driving, like, I know the right way. Yeah. Like, he was not questioning anything. It was just like, this is what it is, I'm gonna go. This is what it is, I'm gonna go. And so this season, he's forced to pause for literally the first time. Like, this whole season could have been just called The Pause, No Diddy. Like, for real. Like, Allison got hers at the very, like, they all got a second to just stop running on autopilot, and you get to see him kind of start to process all of the autopilot shit he was going through.
Damn, that's a profound thought. That's a profound thought, because I think a lot of people were going through autopilot, and they all got a bunch of reality checks about shit. Like, Allison got to face directly head on the reality of what it means to perpetuate a society where men continue to rule and women don't have a place in society. And I remember that scene at the table where she's like, they're talking, and like they basically just told her to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Be quiet, because you're a woman, essentially. And she's like continually learning this lesson of like, I made the wrong choice. These men do not value my input at all. You know, I think about Damon. It's the same thing. It's like he was running on autopilot. I want the crown. I want the crown. I want the crown. I want the crown. That nigga was doing all kind of shit because he wanted the crown, right? I'm the true heir. Then he goes to fucking Harrenhal and has this experience of, oh shit, do I really want the crown? And then he finally has that motherfucking vision. Nah, let me be a team player. I'm a team player right here.
You know what I mean?
And even Rhaenyra as well, like where she realizes that she wants to be queen, not understanding that she really is going to have to go against a lot of misogyny from other people. You know what I mean? Like, she had to slap one of her niggas.
Slap her around the world.
Yeah, slap her around the world. Yeah. She just start your goddamn mouth, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Because, I think that whole battle for her was just like her coming off of autopilot. I'm the heir. I'm the heir. I'm the heir. I'm the heir. This is my right. But also realizing, holy shit, I have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I was raised in a misogynistic society. I was a cupbearer. I wasn't going to council meetings talking about motherfucking war and practicing my sword and shit like that. This is real. Holy shit. You know what I mean? So I'm really glad you brought up that point, because I think a lot of that happened, you know?
Yeah, you definitely got to see a lot of these people really just start dealing with it. And I love not to like beat a dead horse, but like it really reminds me of this quote from this book called The Will of the Many.
Yeah.
So it's a fantasy book. It's really good. But at one point, somebody says, he asks another character, I'm trying not to spoil it. He asks this other character that's like, yo, like, what makes a good ruler? Like, what makes it? Because he's a prince, and he's like, so his king dad is like, yo, like, what makes a good ruler?
Yeah.
And the kid's like trying to figure it out, and he's like, oh, I don't know, I got good ideas, and da 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 da, and like as he like goes through it, it's like a half a page, and then finally at the end of it, he's like, nothing. There's no such thing as a good ruler, and his dad's like, bingo.
Damn.
Because like, for context, right? Every president's a war criminal instantly.
That's what I'm fucking talking about.
Do you know what I mean?
No,
like
dead ass though. Yeah.
Like understanding the gravity of the fact that like I got dragons. Like there's no such thing. Nobody wants this. Yeah. This isn't like, it's a public service for a fucking reason. Yeah. Like you are a servant of the people, and like I felt like I'm starting to get the seriousness of that more so in this show than I even did in the other joint. Because the other one, everybody was like scheming and moving and whatever. Yeah. But this one, it's like, it's very isolated, and you're really getting the sense of like, is this what you want to do? Yeah. Like, does this really? And you know what this is gonna do, because you really get the sense that Rhaenyra is like, I gotta go to war. I gotta really do that. And I think taking a season to make sure that we as an audience get the gravity of that is real, but also as Americans understanding the gravity of that shit just because of the world that we live in and how very easy it is. I mean, like, I'm so desensitized to violence. Yeah, like we are. When it's like not at home, when it's not like on your doorstep, nobody's like invading America. Like it's also even further away. Yeah. Now it's on a screen. Now it's on a video. Like, so I think the seriousness of that, I mean, that just really, I appreciated that at the very least, because especially when I know like motherfuckers is really just tuning in to see these dragons.
Yeah, like, If you want to see these dragons, and like, all right, as much as niggas say that nothing happened to see, nigga, 2 dragons died, bro. 2 dragons died. Rhaenys died. Rest in peace. I call her Rhaenys the truth sayer, because every time she was on screen, she was saying some real shit. Oh my God. I remember the first season, she was like, Rhaenyra walking around like, I will be the heir. She looking at her like, my sweet summer child. You don't know how race or misogynistic these men are. You say that shit while you cold your daddy's cups. You know what I'm saying? Like she holding motherfucking Daemon in check. You know what I'm saying? Daemon like, let's go to fight Vagar. She's like, nigga, you ain't a king. You a king consort, nigga. Mind your. Can we just talk about the sassiness in this season overall, nigga? So much sassiness. I remember that nigga from what's his name? From Harrenhal. He was like the current ruler at Harrenhal. He was being hella sassy to Daemon too. Yeah. The big bone guy. Yeah. He was,
like who? Like he's what you gonna do? Like man, that was like he's like, what you gonna do? Like what you gonna do about all this? Huh? Yeah, we ain't got no. This place burned down. We ain't got no shit. Like what you gonna do?
Yeah. What you gonna do, motherfucker? King consort? Nigga, watch your mouth. You know what I
mean? King consort. Yeah. No, I forgot about what's her name, because she was definitely down till they got her in that one.
Yeah, hold her down. Yeah. Another sassy motherfucker was also a motherfucker on the Green Council. I don't know what his name, bro, but he be throwing in hella.
Oh, he was just talking shit.
You know what I'm talking about? He was like, maybe perhaps the Queen Dowager should get married, and then she was like, an apology for her dead son. He just throwing hella sassy shit at Allison. I was like, damn, if you don't like women here, just say that, cuz.
Bro, honestly, the misogyny of the season, like, I don't think that can be underplayed. Like, I honestly think they definitely like beat us over the head with it. Yeah. But when people say that shit, like, I'm like, but you understand how dumb you are. Like, you don't understand how, like, there are so many like little random intricacies of this season, like so many subtle forms of just dismissiveness that I was like, damn, like I definitely, because I think they play it in a really interesting way, because at least for me, there were moments where I was like thinking it. Like, I'm thinking the thing in my head, like that these guys are about to say. Right before they say it, I'm like, I don't know, maybe we should get a man. And I'm like, oh damn, hold on, let me shut the fuck up. Hold on, yeah, maybe I'm gonna listen. Let me just sit back, because like, and I found those moments to be really funny, because I was like, I was kind of thinking it, and then they said it, and it's like,
damn,
you know what I mean? Like that was it was sobering, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. I think one aspect of misogyny, I think we can't talk about misogyny without talking about Allison. Like, we talked about the moment where she kind of realized, you know, that she was like really not one of them. You know what I mean? But also starting off the season, like, at first I felt like, oh, you deserve this shit, because like she's such a hypocrite. You know what I mean? Like she literally is like, she was upset that basically she had to go marry King Raisin while Rhaenyra got to live her city girl life. You know what I'm saying? And granted, like, looking at this from like a more humanistic approach, like obviously, it's like she was under the age when she married King
I was
Raven.
about to say they was both just fucking kids.
Yeah,
That was
they was kids.
Too.
You know what I'm saying? And she was like, that was horrible. What happened to her, honestly, and that happened because of her father, right? And I think that like she was so spiteful of Rhaenyra because she saw Rhaenyra get to live her own life. So like when she finally got to the point of being in a position of power, she was like, nigga, fuck it, I'm gonna live my own life. My husband died. I'm fucking Christian Cole. I'm riding his face. She was riding that nigga dick like a tyrant, motherfucker, like Genghis Kong in that motherfucker.
Yeah.
She was not playing. She's like, I'm in control now. I'm in power now. You know what I mean?
Running it, yeah.
Oh, wait. No, I'm not, because when I go to this council, I'm still treated like piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? But like I was very angry about her hypocritical nature because she kind of came off like a Karen. That's why I call her Queen Karen. Of the pygmies, you know what I mean? Because she was like, "Oh yes, we'll put my son on, and we'll stop my best friend from being on the throne, who's also a woman," and not really realizing, I think like all pygmies don't really realize how that's going to bite them in the ass in the end, and it ultimately did. You know what I mean? Even though she started from that place, from a place of trauma. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's there's a woman on TikTok who does she makes the videos with the ukulele and she's like, I never thought the leopards would eat my face.
Yeah.
It's like,
she's part of. Yeah. That was a good video. Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just that's a theme of that, man. Like you'll never be enough for this system, like these people, and I think that's really, really rough. Yeah. Also, I want to talk about one of my favorite things about this thing is like how the dragons are like a great metaphor for just your problems.
How so?
Like the more you kind of go throughout your life, right? Like the more successful you get in your life, whatever it is, the more your sort of character deficiencies and the things that have been plaguing you and like fucking with you your entire life are going to become magnified. Like people think, oh, I'm gonna get like rich and famous and then like I'll be
all my problems will go away. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like nothing. Yeah.
I'm a coast. Like I'm good now. Like, and people think that, but like everybody knows that it just makes you more of what you like. Those problems just become elevated.
Yeah.
And in my own life, like I've noticed, like the higher I feel, the better I feel, the more things are popping on all cylinders, the bigger the sort of dragons of my like bullshit become.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I really, the idea of like taming a dragon to me is very indicative of that space of just being like, yo, I gotta deal with the darkest parts, the fear, the like horrid, the like all of that shit, like actually genuinely dealing with that, which is something that, especially when you feel like you're in a position of power, when you feel like things are going well, like you don't want to do. Yeah. And I think a lot of the time things are getting pushed to the back until they become dragon sized. And I think that's sort of, one of the bigger aspects of like what we're constantly trying to deal with is just like these dragon sized crazy fucking problems, traumas over a course of lifetimes that have the power to destroy everything. Like my dragons have the power to destroy my entire life constantly.
Wow.
And so taking care of that or taking that seriously, I think is just is the move.
Yeah. I think you bring some very interesting points and perspectives that I didn't necessarily look at it from before, and like specifically with like having these dragons like is like having like ultimate money or something like that. Being born in wealth and having a dragon, like you're the most powerful person in the realm. Like dragons are seen as gods by the other houses for the most of the time until like obviously Rhaenyra lets bastards ride or whatever, right? But I think it's a really good perspective because I think it does kind of highlight also the double-sided nature of like power and fame. You know what I mean? Like walking up to a dragon in itself and trying to tame a dragon is like they walk in knowing that you could die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this dragon can very well burn you the fuck alive, and we saw that when fucking Dragon Food where motherfucking my nigga C Smoke. That's with a C, capital C, Smoke. The last black dragon burned that motherfucking colonizer and was like, I only for the niggas. But nah.
She smoke.
She smoked, nigga. That's from West Side. That's from West Side Crib. You know what I'm saying? Let me stop. Nah, but I think you bring up a really good point, and I think it's pretty profound when I think about like that power of the dragons themselves. You know what I'm saying? And like how much people risk to get that, but also how They also don't really control the dragons either. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
like Aemon don't control Vagar. Vagar is a wild beast that does his own thing, nigga. And he just kind of like is along for the ride in the same way, like as like people go through like traumas and like they're living through the traumas, coming on autopilot. You know what I mean? They're not really in control of shit. You know what I mean? You're living out, you know what I'm saying, pain and suffering that was passed down to you. You know what I mean? That from your own trauma. You know what I'm saying? From your dad's trauma to your. And speaking of trauma, I just want to get into this one thing. Is just like the power of generational trauma in this is so crazy. I remember watching motherfucking Otto Hightower literally tell Queen Karen, aka Allison, that like he didn't want to hear her shit. They were talking about in the room, and he's like, I don't want to hear your problems, right? Essentially, like you don't have a safe space in me, which is like the opposite of what we started this whole thing. Your grief is unique to you. Yep. He's like, I don't want to hear that shit, nigga.
Yo, when I tell you, I'm not gonna cut you off, but I'm interject. I literally had a family member tell me that another family member told them that this year.
Wow.
Like, we don't cry here. This isn't the place for that. We don't care about this shit. Wow. Like that's real. Like people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah, that's super fucked up. And I'm sorry that happened to them. But like, I think that like that's a really great like thing that to show in a TV show, just like how horrible that is and like what that can do to a person. Because in that moment where she was rejected from telling, you know, she obviously been doing some fucked up or I guess fucked up shit for the realm or whatever, because she's like a queen dowager. She's fucking Kristen Cole. She's had multiple abortions and shit like that. She's trying to confide in her father, who to this point has used her like a fucking chess piece, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I ain't got no space for your emotions at all right now. I do not wish to hear it. And she's like, I have sinned. I do not wish to hear it. And then we get to literally watch her in real time walk from her room out into the room where Aegon is, and he's crying after his dead son just died, right? And we get to see Allison look at that motherfucker and turn around and walk out in real time. The following scene, and she go fuck Kristen Cole and ride that nigga like a tyrant again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Which is like, to me, I'm just like, the way they paired those scenes up, it's just literally showing you like how much is at play here. You know what I mean? And in the same way that Allison was pushed into a role of authority by her father, Allison also pushed her son into a role of authority, you know, against his will, because he was running from the throne. Season 1, he was like, I don't even want this shit, cuz. But Allison's like, no, you must. With her mommy manipulation, got that motherfucker on the throne. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's really fucked up and crazy watching this shit happen in real life. But I also think there's a lot of power in knowing and seeing that. You know what I mean? And like, it almost is like your grief is not unique to you. You know, telling the world that. You know what I mean? We put it on the stage, and like people can find, you know, they can see themselves in that and be like, you know what, I'm gonna be better than this. You know what I mean? Because I can see what this is doing in their life. You know,
I think that, and also like that we ain't shit. Like I think that there's, you know, I think there's something deeply having a show with a bunch of folks who are all like kind of not good people. Like I think it's really, as much as I was really kind of hating on the show at the beginning, because I was just like, it's so fucking sad. I love the perspective of the fact that, like, you know, I feel like in Game of Thrones, like, you was rooting for people. You were like, oh, like something would happen. You're like, yeah, they're the right one. And then something else will happen. Like, yeah, they're the right one. And you're like, oh yeah, they're the right one. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh wait, hold up.
Yeah. They ain't the right one. Nigga, all these niggas fucked up.
You know what I mean? Like everybody's.
Yeah. And then Stargate, the main character. That nigga died season 1. I was like, no, Ned.
You know what I'm saying?
Nothing is right in this world. You know what I mean? Yeah.
He was the only one, actually. But for real though, like, I think having a show where so many people, it's so obvious that nobody is it. Yeah. I think is a really good, like, point to make. Because I think, especially in a society, we're all we're so like performatively judgmental of other people.
Fuck yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like I can't get on the internet at all without somebody like ripping somebody a new asshole
or projecting their problems onto you, or, you know, all kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Constantly. And so I think that it's really sobering to like constantly be reminded. Like, it's so interesting, like watching people watch shows and be genuinely pissed off. Like, did you know this person isn't a good person? Yeah. Like, that's the point. Yeah. That's the point of TV.
Yeah.
We don't make shows about people who have their shit together. Yeah. Like, people are just flawed individuals is like the point of television. Yeah. Like, And so I think it being so overt and so obvious in this show
Yeah.
keeps me from being like, oh, like rooting too hard and getting too
Yeah.
hype on the
Yeah.
bullshit and being like, nah, nobody's clean here.
I think that's a really good perspective because that kind of puts into like moves us to the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about as well. Is like I think that's so profound because like people really can't like people are so obsessive about characters sometimes that they to the point where they were sending actual hate to the actor of Kristen Cole. Like Kristen Cole was a shitty character. I get it. I hate that motherfucker too. I call him Krusty Cole because he don't wash his ass. You know what I'm saying? He's incel a lot. You know what I'm saying? He got so mad that motherfucking the Rhaenyra didn't want his ass, and he's like, I will not be a whore. And then he went and was fucking Queen Karen's whore. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy. But I think to that point is like, yeah, you're right. It's like human being, like people on the show are supposed to be flawed individuals. It's supposed to make you feel something. It's supposed to make you realize that like, oh, this is a bad thing that's happening. It's like people become such stands that they kind of lose the whole message of the show to begin with. Like as much as I'm team black, nigga, I'm team black all day. You know what I'm saying? Rhaenyra also did some bad shit too. Okay, we literally watched her this season throw all her motherfucking cousins, brothers, sisters into the fucking dragon pit just so she could find another dragon rider. And these motherfuckers are getting slaughtered. And she had her guards blocked away. Y'all can't leave. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like people will be like, oh, just because Rhaenyra deserves the crown, it is her crown. Like they took her crown on some I hate women shit, on some patriarchal shit. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean she's infallible. That doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying, that like she is like this worshipful being. Like, she's still a colonizer. They're still colonizing people. You know what I mean? Like, let's not forget what is really happening here. You know what I mean? And that all these characters are deeply flawed at the end of the day, because this is some very inhumane shit that's happening, And
I think to your point also, they also, at the end of the day, as well as flawed as they are, like they got to keep going.
Yeah,
like,
they got to keep going.
That's, if these idiots can keep going, maybe I can. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You know what I'm saying? They get to keep going. Why would I stop myself? You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Because I'm constantly taking L's, and I'm like, man, I think it's really easy to get hard on yourself. And not to be like, I don't know if I had a dragon, but like, for real though, like,
it's really easy to be hard on yourself, and it's also really easy to make like that hurt your whole personality. You know what I'm saying?
Bars.
And when you derive your sense of self from a sense of victimhood, you know what I mean? Like you'll forever be trapped in that mindset. You know what I mean? Like that was a journey I had to go on personally, where like so much of my motivation for life was like getting back at the people who hurt me in my life. I wanted to be a villain so bad. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm gonna get back on the people who took me for granted. And then one day, all that shit ran. As I began to heal, that shit just all ran out. I had nothing left. And I didn't even know how to
tired.
Yeah, it gets tired. And it's like, I don't even know how to, I realized I didn't know how to cultivate a sense of motivation for myself that came from a positive source. You know what I mean? I just felt like completely empty for a while. And I had to learn from scratch, like how to build myself up and how like, my pain is not my only motivator. You know what I mean? And it's like, I let that world, granted, I let the world do that to me because honestly, my own childhood trauma, you know what I'm saying, that I experienced. And some of these things were like ways I was able to survive. But when I got outside of those environments, out of my narcissistic abusive home as a kid, I didn't have anything else to lean on. You know what I mean? So it was this journey of trying to become a better person. You know what I'm saying? Even though the world kind of made me bitter. The world kind of made me, childish and, all kind of stuff, So, yeah.
I will say to that point, I think it's an ongoing thing because I know just the longer we go like on sort of life journey, you'll like we start to see that your awareness is going to expand, right? Like that like with like the internet, like think the internet, right? Before you knew just how insane, how anti-black the world was at its core. Like before you understood that, before maybe you had like a sliver, maybe you had like a little piece, maybe you had this, maybe you had this, and then something happens and you get like context for so much. Not falling into that, but just recognizing just like what it is, I think is a constant like balancing act of seeing like, all right, like I can't go into like, country bumpkin, whatever the fuck in Southern Georgia with a Barack Obama t-shirt. Probably not going to work out for me.
Yeah. Probably not. Yeah. Probably not a good idea. I like living.
Do you know what I mean? But like, I'm also having to be like, aware, or rather, as much as I'm like not like falling into the sort of, I have to be aware of the situation while constantly not allowing that to dominate my personality, like who I am, by not identifying it. I feel like every black person understands that experience of like, people are like, oh, you're being a victim. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I got to work to like not be the victim while still realizing that if I'm getting pulled over, that I got to calm the fuck down. Like I need to be. I think
it's a fucking juggling act, really. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Because it's like some part of you is like wants to be so angry at the world. You know what I mean? And just like retaliate and like draw your sense of self from these places. But it's like it's also a trap. You know what I mean? Like you'll never be happy in those cycles. You know what I mean?
It's a trap, and I think I get personally really frustrated with people oversimplifying that trap. Like I think that's really what I was trying to get at, which is like, because I feel like there's always this polarizing thing that happens, right? We come up with this sort of autopilot victimhood. We feel like shit, whatever it is, and we identify with that, and then that kind of dissolves. And then when that dissolves, we for whatever reason we kind of polarize to the other side, and we're like, that workout, bro. Oh man, that's victim mentality. I can't do that. That's not who I am. I'm not gonna da 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 da. And if you're doing that, and then you like you see somebody else, and you're like, oh man, so you stuck in the victim shit. Let me tell you what you got to do. Da 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 da. And it's like, it's a balance, right? Like at the same time, like Damon was unconscious to his autopilot reactivity. Someone who's in a sense of victimhood, maybe as I've gotten older, I've been able to be a lot more sensitive to the fact that they just may not be there yet. And me beating them over the head with the fact that like, you know, you being is not going to make that any clearer for them. And so
and it's also not going to clear up the material realities of systemic oppression. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not going to like, just because I think of myself not as a victim, it's not necessarily going to change my material world, because we're talking about system of oppression here. We're talking about cycles of poverty. Like these things you're not going to think your way out of a cycle of poverty, bro. It's like, and if you are, like, you're like the 1% out of 99% of people. You know what I mean? And it's also, and it's also, to add on to that, it's not a victim mentality to want reparation. You know what I mean? To want healing, to want justice. You know what I mean? If any company got fucked over and was like, oh, y'all, we lost all X amount of money, they would be like, all right, we need to get our money back. You know what I mean? We gonna sue your ass to get our money back. But all of a sudden, when it comes to black people and their oppression, it's like, oh, y'all are only victims. Y'all are holding on to this. Whoa, we aren't only victims. We just looking at the material reality of our existence. You know what I mean? And understanding that we are marginally, are oppressed, based on and marginalized based on our identity and the color of our skin. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think I get so mad about how people try to simplify that shit and kind of like, dude, bro, this mentality. If you just think your way out of oppression, like it's like, bro, I think it comes down to this overarching battle between the individual and community, or systemic and the individual. You know what I mean? You can obviously you can make individual changes in your life, but these things aren't necessarily going to change systemic issues. You need both individual solutions and systemic solutions. You know what I mean? You need things that are going to work for the system, but also things that are also going to work for yourself as well, and how to, build that up. It's like, but it takes two. But in our society, we're so hyper individual that we only look at the individual, because we're not looking at the systemic change, because systemic change are literally overthrow capitalism, bro. Bring about a socialist revolution.
I feel like the bridge is community, though.
For sure.
Right? Like the bridge for both of those is community. Because, there's so many just mental health co-regulative things that happen when we are in a sense of community with people around us. And I think that, I mean, like, look, if TikTok has taught me anything, community organizing is going to be the thing that saves us. Because, like, we got no leverage, we got no juice if we're not a community together. And so I think the balance of that, a seesaw, but I think when you start to see like, with both of these things, I think it's really, really helpful. I have no idea how we got here. We're far away from House of the Dragon.
But this is Mindful Blerd, y'all. We just talking about real shit, anime, fucking mindfulness, politics. It's all wrapped up in one, because it's all low-key connected, bro. It's all low-key connected, bro. You know what I mean? And that's why how we just follow its natural seams to where we are now. You know what I mean? And that's why, honestly, I just love doing this podcast, because Like it's just such a fucking. I think it's such a needed podcast. I don't feel like we have this overarching like view of like this radical and also spiritual view, mindful view of like the world and media. You know what I mean? And they're so because they're so connected, bro. Media is just like stories, and stories are like the oldest things to humankind. It's the meaning of our lives. You know what I mean? We're talking about how characters are being like portrayed as flawed humans. Like reality check, we're all flawed in some way. You know what I mean? And this is why these characters are moving to us. You know what I mean? So
yeah, man. So overall wrap up.
Yeah.
What's your sort of bite-sized takeaway from the season?
This season,
Game of Thrones or Game of Thrones in general, whatever.
I guess for House of Dragon season 2, my biggest takeaway is that nigga, down with the patriarchy. Down with the motherfucking patriarchy. Nigga, damn. Fuck that. Y'all niggas be ruining everything, giving men a bad rap for everything, bro. I'm so sick of you niggas, bro. Move out the way. It's sensitive, vulnerable nigga time, bro. We better work together, hand in hand with women. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Now
you?
I'm like in my head. I don't fucking know. What's my last? I had it like a minute ago, and it was cold, and now I want it back.
Yeah. It's all good.
It was the importance of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like my bite-sized takeaway for the season is just like it felt like I got like meaning to. No, that's not what I was trying to say. I would just say it's important to pause. It's important to slow down.
Yeah.
Before you take action, before you fucking do anything, regardless of what you got in the back. Because I'm not stupid. I know certain things, and there are so many times where I have gone full tilt on some dragon shit. When I should have just taken a second and paused and maybe thought about that. Not to get too mindful, but to get a little too mindful.
Is power, nigga. You know what I'm saying?
But like, you know, I think thinking that you know things, thinking that I got the whole picture.
Yeah.
To give it a pause and to be like, yo, like maybe think about this. Maybe take a second.
Yeah, for sure. Get off autopilot. You know what I mean?
Get off autopilot. Yeah. Can't autopilot a dragon.
Yeah.
Can't autopilot a dragon.
Autopilot a dragon, nigga. You are gonna fuck around and burn some shit. You know what I'm saying? Well, one last thing before we go. I did want to talk about. I know we kind of talked about a lot of moments in the season right now, but I also want to talk about what was like one big moment from the season that like really just like grabbed you. You know what I mean? That made you feel some kind of way. Like if you had to put it the biggest moment in the season. It could be one, but I know there's lots of moments in the season because it was a great season. Yeah.
For some reason, I really who's the night guy? The guy who was like Kristen Cole. Kristen Cole, his speech.
What speech?
At the fire, when he was at the fire and he's like, we're just food for the dragons, like we don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Like that shit hit me, man. That really
Yeah. When he was basically kind of like the guy had just found out he was fucking his sister. He was fucking Allison, and he put the sword to him, and he was like almost like unfazed by the prospect of death. You know what I mean? After the battle of Rook's Rest. You know what I mean? And he has seen the power of the dragons. But what exactly were you saying about that? I kind of cut you off there. What were you? What moved you?
I don't even know. I think it was the sort of kind of the futility of it. After seeing him be somebody so kind of smarmy and just kind of maneuvering and being somebody who's trying to like just look out for number one and being just kind of selfish. It was really grounding to see him be like, it hit home for me, the futility of war.
Just for us niggas who ain't up to on vocab like we need to be, what do you mean by futility?
It's the stupidity, the pointlessness, the fucked upness of war in general. Like I really felt that. I don't feel like I hate war movies. I hate anything to do with war because I think the trivialization of war is fucked. Like it infuriates me. And so I think anything where you get to see the sort of where you see a character acknowledge the brutality of it. I feel like even at like, what was the episode where my man, when she died, when they had the first dragon fight, that shit, when they're having that, and you see all these people get lit on fire and we don't have a second thought about it. We're on to the next thing. What happened to the king? Okay.
And
him
people
in
just
that
fucking died. Like people were just burned alive in their
burned
fucking
alive,
armor suits.
like might as well be weapon of mass destruction. Like fucking,
literally that. Yeah.
And so seeing him like really recognize the futility of it, I feel like for me gave me an opportunity to be like, oh yeah, this shit is fucked up. Like, this is terrible. And so that I was like weeping that entire speech because I was like, yeah, no, this is dumb. You're correct.
Yeah.
This is really fucking dumb. We should not be doing this.
Yeah, and you're kind of fucking dumb, Christian Cole, because you help perpetuate this with your stinking ass. You know what I'm saying? No, but I think that's a really good. I think that's a really good point. I think my big moment that really just like kind of shook me. Like, there's so many good moments from this season, but I think we would be remiss not to talk about this moment of when Alicent kind of snuck into Dragonstone. There's so many parallels in the season. Obviously, Daemon and Aemon, you know what I mean? The parallels of them, you know what I mean? The parallels of so much, right? But I think Alicent sneaking in the same way that Rhaenyra snuck into the crypt to Dragonstone, I think was huge in multiple ways. One, there was this slight undertones of like literally that they kind of wanted to run away together a little bit. You know, after Alicent kind of was being snarky to, Rhaenyra was being snarky to Alicent, you can see that like there was some genuine love for each other, and they remembered that they were best friends, and if it wasn't the fact that they were both women, they probably would have just married their houses together, and this whole thing would have never happened to begin with. You know what I mean? Rhaenyra would have just married Alicent, you know, and their houses would have been conjoined. You know what I mean? And it would have been the end of that. You know what I mean? None of this would have happened, and it's like. Also, there's just this thing, they kind of love each other, you know, in that way. And then also Alicent is like, it pisses me off too, because Alicent is kind of like trying to run away from her problems now. Like even though she kind of started this shit, and there's this scene at the end where we see Rhaenyra, beautiful cinematography this scene. We see Rhaenyra,
really is.
Another parallel, we see Rhaenyra kind of like under the weight of her own house, the history of her house, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we get to see fucking Alicent in that same like, do up or same shot length, and we see Alicent basically under the sky and the sea. She's free finally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me just like one hand it pisses me off because she got away. Like you started all this shit, girl. You finna just get away. You finna live your life. You know what I mean? You finna just be free finally out of the misogyny after you realize that you was being a pick me this whole time. And then Rhaenyra is like, she's kind of doomed under the weight of her own house. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was a beautiful scene, and I thought this story is kind of like a tragic love story in a way. You know?
It really is, because I was rooting for them for real.
Yeah, me too. I was like, hey, go ahead, bro.
Just make this happen. I want to do an honorable mention because I did think about this while you were saying that. Which is fucking Daemon, that scene with Rhaenyra. Yeah. I just realized the parallel between that and season 1 of him putting the crown on his brother and putting the crown on her. Like him putting the crown on his brother. And him like crowning, like being with her, those were two different Daemons, but they seem like they're the same Daemon. Yeah. But new Daemon is hitting different. Like there's a purpose to him. There's like an adulthood to that focus. Like, and that shit was like, I was like, yo, that's what's up. Do that, Daemon. Do that. Man, like 50 years old, finally having his prefrontal cortex finally developed. You know what I'm saying? That motherfucker was like, I don't want this crown no more, bro. I'm here. I'm giving it to Rhaenyra. You can have it. You know what I'm saying? You know what?
Yeah. But I think this is beautiful, and I'm so glad we got to talk about the House of Dragons. Look out on our socials, guys. We just started all our socials for @Mindful Blerd, pretty much everywhere except TikTok, where it's @Mindful Blerd podcast. So you can check us out there if you guys want to stay locked in with us and support the socials. It's been a beautiful time with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. Any last words, Bo?
Nah, man, I do want a dragon now, but
same, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was hating, but like I did like to see. It's a fine show. It's
he loves it, y'all. That's his way of saying I love that shit, bro. And I can't wait for season 3.
Yeah. All right, y'all.
Have a good one. All right, peace. Let's get it.